Let me also go across now to our esteemed guest with us on the broadcast, Colonel David Roche, who is a professor and has been closely tracking the developments. Let me just begin by asking you for your assessment of where things are really headed in the region.
Well, they're not headed in a good direction. What we're looking at here is you had a very, very powerful Israeli strike, which was basically a decapitation strike, and it was aimed at completely immobilizing Iran's nuclear program as well as their ballistic missile capacity. What we've seen in response appears to be somewhat weaker, relatively pro forma. So the question is whether Israel will respond again, and if it does, if that necessitates a serious Iranian response. With the previous two missile strikes that Iran launched on Israel, because most of the missiles were intercepted, Iran said, oh, we didn't really, we were just showing our strength. We didn't really mean to hit anything. I don't think they can get away with saying that now. So I think when the sun comes up and we see what the actual damage is, that will determine, if the Iranian missiles have hit an apartment block and killed 40 people, then there will be another step up the escalatory ladder between the two. But if it appears that what was hit was an empty building or the middle of a park or something, then we could probably begin to de-escalate. But the other question we have here is we don't know exactly what Israel's target set is. We don't know how much of Iran's nuclear program has been developed. I think having crossed the Rubicon, Israel will continue to operate until they feel they've destroyed the nuclear capability.
Right. Requesting you to just hold that thought there and continue to stay on with us. Let's also simultaneously get our viewers a better sense of what things have looked like on the ground in the aftermath of Iran strikes on Israel. These are the visuals that have been coming in.
Imale.
And that's just a sample of what things have looked like on the ground in Israel following Iran's attacks. Remember, that is a true Promise 3 operation that Iran has launched in retaliation against Israel after it promised fierce revenge after the Israeli attacks. Going back across now to Colonel David Roche, I want to also understand from you your outlook on how optimistic you really are as far as, for example, the UN session that's taking place right now. We just heard from our correspondent about the sentiment there on the ground as well. But how optimistic are you really about a de-escalation at this point?
Well, the volume of missiles that Iran has fired at Israel are not on the same scale as Operation True Promise 1 and True Promise 2. It appears to be fewer missiles were involved. That would indicate to me that this wasn't really a planned operation, or that Iran has the capacity to keep this up on a regular basis. So just the lack of capacity and ability alone may limit Iran's escalatory reaction. At the same time, the other driver here is what Israel's ambitions truly are. Netanyahu said that these will last in waves over several days. I think that Iran hopes to deter Israel from doing that with this operation. But it remains to be seen if Iran can do this over several days. So I think in 2 days we'll know. The number of missiles Iran fired today was less than 100. Israel will probably attack again tomorrow. Tomorrow night, if Iran's response to that is fewer than 50 missiles, then we know that they're running out of capacity. And if that happens, there'll be a de-escalation because of military necessity, because of the lack of weaponry. I don't think the United Nations will be able to come up with a political reason for a de-escalation. I think there's a different logic working here.
Right. Just taking a cue from what you just said, what do you really make of America's role, its position at this point in the backdrop of the fact that Israel has made it clear that the U.S. was informed about these strikes?
Well, and President Trump said he was informed about the strikes. So, on the one hand, it's kind of like, well, he's a man of his word. He said that he would give Iran 60 days to come to an agreement on nuclear enrichment. The Israeli attacks took place on day 61. We know that Netanyahu was opposed to the U.S. entering this talks at the start, saying this will not go anywhere. The Iranians will just play for time. They will try to suck you into an endless negotiation process, give you the illusion of progress, and then argue over details until you leave office. Trump, having been president before, and people forget, Trump did not impose maximum pressure until the last, I think, 14 months of his administration. So he saw how the process was played out by the Iranians. And on day 61, apparently the Israelis said, right, we gave you your 60 days to solve this. And I think Trump said, right, you did. I said 60 days, we didn't get the reaction, off you go. But it is important to note the Israelis are doing this by themselves. The American involvement appears to be in defending Israel against missile attacks, which is something that we've done really since Operation Desert Storm in the 1990s.
Right. And in the light of the statements that have been coming in from the two sides, what do you make of the messaging from both Iran and Israel?
I think that Israel is speaking to an international audience and predominantly an American audience. I think that Iran is predominantly speaking to its own people. And so the messaging from Israel is that this is a difficult task, but it's something we're determined to do. We're going to see it through. This has been a problem for a long time, and we're going to rip the Band-Aid off what has been a chronic problem, and it's going to be painful, but we're going to do it. The Iranian message, on the other hand, has less verisimilitude to it. It is basically a message of confrontation. We are strong. Our air defenses have worked, which I don't think is the case. And we will punish the enemy here, so have no fear. I think that that's a message aimed at wavering internal people who are trying to decide whether they're going to continue to support a regime that, let's face fact, is very brutal, authoritarian, and corrupt, or whether they're going to withdraw their support for the regime and begin the slow erosion that affects most authoritarian states before they fall, like we saw in Syria.
Right, and I just want to go back to that point that you made earlier about the United States positioning. We also, of course, are aware about America making those efforts when it comes to moving its ships and its military resources. So we already have seen those measures being taken. At this point, your sense of where things are headed, like you said right at the beginning, is that they're not headed in a good direction. But do you really think that things are headed in the direction of an all-out war?
Well, I don't think they are, no. I mean, so far, Iran had said, senior Iranian leaders had said that if they were attacked by Israel, they would view that as an attack on the United States, and they would attack not just American facilities, which are usually located as part of a much larger facility that belongs to the host nation, but they would also attack any country that hosts American forces, and threatening action against countries as far as Greece. So we haven't seen that. They have not attacked those facilities. Iran's militias, the militias that Iran controls in Iraq, have not attacked the U.S. embassy or the relatively small U.S. presence within Iraq. So there seems to be at least an implicit desire to not spread the nature of this conflict, keep it isolated between Israel and Iran. Again, what we don't know is whether that's because Iran is reeling and just lacks the ability to do this, or whether they've made a political decision.